You're listening to Civic Media. You can tune into any of our live shows on any radio station across the state with the Civic Media app. Find us in your phone's app store and listen anytime, anywhere.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
On a Wednesday morning, welcome back. Nice to have you here up north on this October 29th, 2025. We will be talking to Earl Ingram in a bit. Melissa Baldauff coming up with our climate check as well. And we'd love to have your input at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. You can also just send us a text message through that number. Or best of all, download that Civic Media app where you can call us from the app. You can send us a text message from the app, or you can record a voice note message on the app and send it to us as well. From Rob, good morning from Tigerton. It's partly cloudy and 38. Today I have a doctor's appointment in Shawano and some errands to do. He goes on to say on YouTube that yesterday I went to the local library to look up information on their computer and download information from my notes for my Highway 29 scrapbooks. And he says, I'm one of the victims that is getting my SNAP benefits cut, and I've been working with Dr. Kristen Lyerly, helping on SNAP program cut downs to try to understand them. We all are, Rob, we all are, because those of us who have actually been there and still hold on to a shred of our humanity, decency, and in some cases, Christian compassion, understand what the issue really is here. And it is about politicians that are looking to essentially starve Democrats into submission so that they can jack up healthcare costs for everybody and protect health insurance companies. One of the people that frustrates me most is Congressman Derek Van Orden, who loves to talk about being raised by a single mom, being on food stamps, having to eat government cheese, as he puts it, and that he then made something of himself by going into the Navy and being a SEAL. And that's great for him. But he's now what I call a ladder pusher. He was able to climb the ladder that he did thanks to support from things like food stamps, now known as SNAP, and he's pushing that ladder away. I grew up with a single mom and on food stamps, and it wasn't her choice to be poor and to be a single mom and to have my little brother have health issues that she needed to stay home and take care of him full time until he passed away at the age of 9. But there are people that would just sneer at her to go get a job. And eventually she did. Third shift, overnights at a truck stop, waiting tables while I watched my younger siblings. And then she got the next job and the next job after that, and eventually got off food stamps. But it was a long, hard process to get there. And it wouldn't have been helped with politicians like Donald Trump, Derek Van Orden, and others pushing away what little bit of ladder that we had. That's my view on it. I'm betting Earl Ingram has a similar view, and he joins us now to talk about this issue and more. You can also catch him on the What's Going On podcast. Get that through civicmedia.us. Forgive the personal rant there, Earl. Good morning.
No, good morning to you, Pat. It's right on time. I, like you, I'm from a family of 13, and there was certainly a time in my life that we received some assistance. I think that if you look in the background of maybe 50% of the American people, at some given point in time in their lives, if they've lived as long as you and I, they had some assistance. There's a reason why those things were put in place. And what I don't understand the most, Pat, is the difference between those people of today and those people of yesterday who understood that there's, never by the grace of God goes I. And, you can't talk about being a nation founded under the Judeo-Christian ethic if you don't live up to that. And so I don't understand. We're looking at children and the elderly who are on food share, who are going to be struggling to eat, Pat, in the wealthiest nation on earth. How can people sleep? knowing that at the end of this, whatever their differences are, that, we're going to starve out the American people. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you're on the lower rung, aren't you still Americans?
Yes, and that's the thing that again makes it tough for me to understand, but I will try. The closest that I can say is, on the one hand, they're just sneering. There's what some people call the wars on the poors. But if I'm going to try to be fair, I'm going to try to say, well, some folks see it as tough love, and if your safety net is cut out from underneath you, well then you're going to stop being dependent on government assistance and you're going to go get something that's out there. And yet I'd be the first to say, well, given that something like 70% of SNAP recipients are working and the rest are either elderly or disabled or children, maybe the bigger problem is that we live in a country where people work full time and still qualify for near poverty wages that deserve SNAP benefits.
You just pointed out a conundrum. And that conundrum is, as you just stated, it's only going to get broader and wider because AI is going to claim many people who are in the workforce. If our nation doesn't figure this out, and it should be figured out, people should have value. The lives of human beings should have value. And I'm not the person who said that. He who created the heavens and the earth and the fullness thereof made that clear. But we continue to struggle with this. And I will tell you that seeing my community, and I'm sure communities all over this nation, mobilize and come together and say, we can't allow human beings to starve in the wealthiest nation on earth. It makes no sense.
No. And by the way, never mind, the people who've been on food assistance for a longer term. Okay. That is a very genuine issue there, but let's look at some recent layoff announcements. When you mentioned AI, UPS is laying off something like 48,000 people. Amazon is laying off up to 30,000 people. Intel, 24,000. Nestle, 16,000. Ford, 11,000. Microsoft, 7,000. Paramount, 2,000. Target, 1,800 people. These are tens of thousands of people, not to mention all the federal government workers who are either going without a paycheck or being fired entirely. What do they think these tens of thousands of people are going to do other than notice who's cutting off their ability to afford food?
Pat, that's a beginning of a long list of people who are going to be impacted and affected by AI. And so we must ask the question, what are those, as you just stated, what are those people going to do? I'll tell you what many of them are going to do. They've been law-abiding citizens. But the first law of nature is self-preservation. If they think people are going to sit back and starve in the wealthiest nation on earth, they're sadly mistaken. If their children are hungry, even the most, law-abiding person isn't going to sit back and watch their families go hungry or homeless. They're going to do some things that just aren't right. And so they got to take that into consideration. Right now, they're not, Pat.
No, and that's just the food end of things. Then there's the healthcare end of things, where again, with the open enrollment period starting Saturday and prices for just basic coverage under the Affordable Care Act going up by tens of thousands of dollars for many households, they're going to choose to go without health insurance because they can't afford it. And then something's going to happen and they can't pay the medical bills. Again, we are just setting the stage for rampant disaster here, but I don't want to get too far afield because you talked about the loss of the SNAP benefits. The community is in fact organizing. We are all looking for ways to help others.
Yeah, it is disgraceful that we're at this point in time, and maybe there is some good from the perspective that I see it in a community mobilizing. and something I haven't seen in a long time. And I'm sure that mobilization is happening all over this nation, and sending a message to people that the American people do matter. And so elected officials who are, in the positions that they're in, you can't be so cold and so disconnected that you just turn your back on what is happening.
Yeah. So what kinds of things are people going to be doing then to provide that support? I know I hear about food drives that are going on. We've got an article on our website about ways that you can help as well. So we are about to see some of the better angels of our nature.
Yes, donating money and money going to places where people can go and get food. The food kitchens are going to listen. So what it really is, Pat, is we're really kind of recreating soup lines.
Yeah.
In essence, that's kind of what it is, right? I mean, they're not giving out soup, but there'll be people lined up, Pat, around corners in 2025. Looking for sustenance. I mean, come on, man.
It's amazing how far we have fallen from the strongest recovery after COVID of any developed nation to what this country's turned into in just 9 months here. We're talking to Earl Ingram from the What's Going On with Earl Ingram podcast. Get it at civicmedia.us, click on shows. And then you also had some thoughts about, generational change here. I, for one, have looked at, a lot of people who waited way too long to retire. There's still people in Congress in their mid 80s. And I'm more than happy to start to make way for the next generation that's coming up. But in other ways, sometimes this generation feels like it's being pushed off the stage, and we're kind of resisting that.
Well, that's exactly it, Pat. And I've talked about this for a long time. Only I'm attempting to try to create some dialogue. It's been going on for far too long, and Generation Xers are saying to you and I and baby boomers, you've had your turn, literally. It's time for you to get out of the way. And I've heard these words, get out of the way and let us lead. And I've said to many of them, we're not in your way. We're not stopping you from leading. It is your time now. It's clearly that. But I think it's foolhardy to totally dismiss people who've been at this and who've lived life and our experience. You don't want to hear anything that we have to say. It's foolhardy. I think that you and I certainly listen to our elders, and elders have some value. I think, Pat, we've been here. We've kind of gone through the rough roads, and we can help. We don't have to be in the lead. And if I look in my city, the mayor is a young man, the county executive, these guys are in their 30s, young man. The chief of police, all these people are all young people. And so they're leading. The politicians are all young people. So I don't know what it is they're talking about.
No, I think we're already seeing people step up and leaving room for mentorship and coaching. And that's what we're looking to do.
Yes.
And for those of us that want to play that role, but for those who want to lead, it is time to step up. We are ready for that. Earl Ingram has this and more on his What's Going On podcast at civicmedia.us. Earl, thank you so much. Have a great day out there.
You as well.
All right. Melissa Baldauff is coming up with our climate check. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started.
Just about 8:23 now. Nice to have you back on these mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News here on the Civic Media Radio Network. On this Wednesday morning, just absolutely heartbreaking images coming in from Jamaica, where we're seeing the first reports from the massive flooding, the landslides, and of course the wind damage from Hurricane Melissa. which, like so many other hurricanes recently, went from 0 to 60, or in this case, 0 to category 5 in practically no time at all, because of a changing climate that has led to conditions much more favorable for these storms. And yet, at a time when we need people better than ever before to help collect data and help out with the forecasting for things like hurricanes, you've got an administration that is firing probationary employees and massive early retirements through the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, the parent agency of the National Weather Service. Not exactly great time, but great timing. But we'll cover that and more with Melissa Baldauff in our climate check this week. Melissa, how are you?
I'm doing all right, thanks.
Yeah.
I like you though, just absolutely heartbroken by what we're seeing, the devastation from Hurricane Melissa, and just seeing that storm, intensify so rapidly. It doubled it, the wind speeds doubled in less than a day.
Mhm.
And like you said, that's just all the more reason that we need to have those experienced scientists and staff members at NOAA supporting the work and making sure that we're learning as much as we can and doing everything we can to have that accurate data and to help folks. And then knowing on the back end now, um, that there are fewer resources for people when they are devastated by a storm like this. Obviously, this one's not hitting the continental U.S., but we know that if a similar storm were to hit us and the end of this season or sometime next year, we'd have fewer resources for people recovering.
And by the way, fewer resources by choice. Okay. It was Donald Trump's
Correct.
choice to deny FEMA relief for public infrastructure in southeast Wisconsin after the August flash flooding. It was a choice to make those cuts of people and of budgets and of relief. And I just want people to keep that in mind when they say, well, it's weather. What are you going to do? There are things you actually can do, both in forecasting at the front end and recovery on the back end, that these politicians are deciding that most ordinary Americans are not worth the trouble and not worth the expense, and that's a choice that people make, by the way.
Just like cutting off SNAP is a choice.
Yes, yeah, and one that for some reason they are they are proud of and should not be. Let's look for some good news where we can get it. And there's a headline in the Guardian: global renewable energy generation surpasses coal for the first time. Record solar expansion and steady wind growth driving a world shift away from fossil fuels in 2025, according to a new report by the climate think tank Ember. Melissa, thank you. I needed some good news, and that definitely qualifies.
Yes, this is really wonderful news. The one caveat I will say is that we are we are not the drivers of this in the
No,
U.S.
no.
China and India are largely responsible for that increase in renewables because the U.S. And Europe are still relying on fossil fuels. But this is a really important shift globally, and one that is going to continue. It's going to be unfortunate that for the next couple of years, the U.S. will not be helping to drive that in the same kind of way because the federal government hasn't supported us anymore. They've taken away that support for folks. However, we're still seeing the market drive that even here. These are people are interested in putting solar panels on their roofs. Businesses and churches they're looking at ground source heat pumps. Our schools are doing this. So we're still seeing that shift because people know it's the right thing to do and they know it's going to save them money. So we're going to continue to see this growth and these surges really by people who are choosing uh, to use clean energy.
Right. Yeah. In the numbers, renewable energy contributed to 34% of all global electricity generated, while coal fell to 33%. So again, still too much, but moving in the right direction. I wish electric bills were moving in the right direction, but apparently power bills are surging in the country. Utilities are still seeking higher rates anyway, Melissa.
Yeah, they are. This is something that, people, because of the decisions that we have seen from Donald Trump and his administration and the MAGA Republicans in Congress who support that agenda, we're seeing all kinds of prices go up. We know food costs are higher, so people are paying more on their grocery bills. You name it. The healthcare premiums are about to go up for folks. So really they're increasing costs across the board, and also in utility bills. Residential rates have risen really fast across the US, more than 30% on average since 2020, and about double the rate of inflation in the past year. And that's an impact on everybody. That's tough for anybody um, to stomach that big of an increase. That's really difficult on a budget. And, we know that this is something that has a uh, direct relationship to the choices that are happening in Washington, D.C.
That's right.
That we're moving in the wrong direction. The cheapest and cleanest sources of energy are renewables.
That's right.
And, instead of making the investment there, we've got the president, you know,
Trying to go
dishonestly
backwards.
saying
Yeah.
that those are the cause of the high prices, and they're not.
Taking us back. Melissa Baldauff with this week's Climate Check. Melissa, thank you very much for a little good news. I appreciate it.
All right.
Take it where I can get it. Exactly. We'll come back with more after this. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. .35. Welcome back. Pat Kreitlow here. Parker Olson down in Madison Studio A2. And without a guest for this segment, the phone lines are available at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. So many subjects that we've covered. If somebody wanted to weigh in on any one of them, they could. Or perhaps best candy, worst candy for Halloween.
Ooh.
What do you really want to get, or what do you like to get? And what have you really hated to receive? Now, I have to take the worst one off the list because we've already mentioned popcorn balls. They're so dumb.
I'm not as big against popcorn balls as you.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think they're fine.
Maybe they've made them better with like flavor or something like that, where it's not just biting into an old styrofoam ball, All right. Well, maybe. So what would be the worst thing that you could get in the candy, Halloween treats thing? I'm not talking like a live rat or something like that.
Well, live rat wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
That would kind of rain on my parade a little.
Mhm.
Not a licorice guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Licorice.
That
There we
doesn't
go.
do it for me.
Tony on YouTube, popcorn balls are gross. Thank you. Yes.
All right.
He also says in lieu of a guest, I want a monologue about Derek Van Orden. What's he been up to recently? I feel like I haven't heard much about him. Trust me, I can do that. I'm capable of that. He also says candy corn is the worst.
Also a wrong take.
And I had to, I think it was yesterday, had to acknowledge I've come off of my all total hatred of candy corn once I realized that, you take a couple of candy corns and a handful of peanuts and you've got basically a salted nut roll or a payday bar.
Yeah.
And that's actually pretty good.
It
So
is.
Tony, give that a try. Let me know what you think. So best candy, worst candy, or other thing to give out at Halloween. The best in our neighborhood was one of the docs in the neighborhood. He and his wife gave out full-size candy bars and a can of Mountain Dew to every kid that came to the door.
That's gonna turn some parents against you.
It probably did, but I think he also gave a can of beer to the parents that came in too. So I think
he's making friends
to win them over.
Yeah.
Tony asks, "How dare you grow and evolve as a person, Pat?" I know. I thought I would hate candy corn forever, but wouldn't you know? Just one little thing takes care of it. So yeah, we'd love to get your thoughts on best candy, worst candy, because there's still time for you to stock up. There's still time for me to finish off this bag of Kit Kats and have to get something else that's out there. We will see, especially since now with the new coffee pot. If you missed it earlier, I had a new coffee pot shipped same day. Got it late last night so that I would still have my coffee this morning. And as I said before, the best thing to have at the end of the show here is with an empty coffee cup, but you still got the aroma of the coffee in there. You put a little splash of milk in there and you have your Kit Kat bar. And you understand why earlier in the show, Parker and I were talking about maybe we need a workout routine after the show. Maybe we should actually exercise instead of sitting around having candy bars at 9:00 in the morning. I don't know.
It could probably do us. I don't know about wonders, but
now look at this. Tony's saying Baby Ruths are the best. Well, Tony, I got news for you. Take the candy corn that you hate so much.
Oh boy.
Take some peanuts and now put a couple of chocolate chips in there as well.
Oh.
You got a Baby Ruth. You got a Baby Ruth. Tony, you got to try this. You got to try it.
I haven't had a Baby Ruth in a while.
Yeah. So and then he writes, look how exercise worked out for Dr. Lyerly. She needs new knees now. That is a very fair point. I got to say,
yeah,
and that's what I'm doing. It's self-preservation. I don't want to wear my knees out, or I could actually, go downstairs to the treadmill, when the show is done.
You could just do some walking. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Daily walks, or hey, let's hit the curls.
Anything, honestly, anything at this point would be an improvement on what we got going on. Coming up later today on Matt and Air on Air, Amy Barrio from Clean, Wisconsin. Barrio. I keep getting her pronunciation wrong. I apologize. From Clean, Wisconsin on at 9:35. And then at 10:06 this morning after the 10 o'clock news, Emily Cephos, chair of the Outagamie County Democratic Party and a candidate for legislature, will be joining Jane Matnair and Greg Bach. And then later this afternoon on the Maggie Dawn show at 4:35, State Senator Sarah Kieski will be appearing. And as you might have heard Pete Schwaba say earlier during one of the commercial breaks, he will have Door County Trolley spooky storyteller Carl Saraki joining the show. So all that and more still ahead across the Civic Media Radio Network. All right, I was mentioning the cuts to SNAP, and earlier we had Ellie Bordeaux on talking about the newsletter and how you can help out with the SNAP cuts and support those whose food relief is about to be cut. And what can you do? You can contribute to food banks, and that would be extremely welcome, especially given what I told you about yesterday, the article from ProPublica that investigated and found out the tens of millions of pounds of food that was supposed to be delivered to food banks since May, but the Trump administration cut $500 million from a program that would have shipped surplus food and groceries to food banks. So all that food's just going to go to waste, and it won't go into the food pantries that are helping people who are not only losing their SNAP benefits, but as we talked earlier, they're losing their jobs. Tens of thousands of jobs are being cut by corporate America. In many cases, they're saying it's because of AI. It sounds like a very convenient excuse, rather than acknowledge that the economy is not doing well. You're looking at the Federal Reserve probably going to lower interest rates again today. Donald Trump has been bullying the Fed to lower interest rates, saying that it's going to, stimulate investment in the economy. Well, yeah, remember why they cut interest rates? When the economy is weak. That's the problem. It's an acknowledgement by the President of the United States that he was handed the best economic recovery post-COVID of anywhere else in the world, and he blew it. He squandered it all the way with austerity measures and budget cuts, and now cutting off, SNAP benefits and jacking up everybody's health insurance costs. Anyway, earlier on the website, upnorthnewswi.com, I had an article about that, about essentially weaponizing red tape, whether you're talking for Medicaid or for SNAP benefits, all of these things that Republicans who love to tell you that they're against red tape, they have found a way to weaponize that red tape and force more families to go hungry. So you've got that article on the website, but then again, Ellie's new article on how to support people. There is, for example, the Hunger Task Force in Milwaukee. There's Feeding America. There's the Hunger Relief Federation of Wisconsin. That is a statewide association of independent food banks and pantries. There's the Second Harvest Food Bank. There's the Channel One Regional Food Bank in La Crosse and throughout western Wisconsin. The Feed My People Food Bank, which helps out in northern Wisconsin. And I've helped out the Feed My People Food Bank a few different times. And again, it is really something to, in our case, in our church parking lot, to see once a month the line of cars. It is an extremely long line of cars of people who need help. These are people who have jobs but have low incomes at their jobs, which is indicative of a larger economic and societal problem that we don't have time to get into right now. But for folks that are thinking, oh, it's just a bunch of lazy bums, I would urge you to come join me at one of these food distributions one of these times and talk to these folks for yourself, rather than just the fairy tales that you're hearing on right-wing radio and TV. There's the St. Croix Valley Food Bank. There's Second Harvest Northland. And then finally, you can also dial 211 or text your zip code. It's a free and anonymous service that connects residents with local food programs and services. You can donate money. You can donate food. You can volunteer. The money is especially helpful. I mean, it's one thing to grab some old stuff out of your cupboard and go, yeah, see, I'm doing my part. It'd be another if you could actually write a check or make an online contribution to any of these places. And in Ellie's article on the website, all of those organizations that I just listed, those are in there as links. You can click on any one of them, click on the link, it'll take you right to each of their individual sites so that you can learn the details on how to give. Because frankly, to maintain full funding of the program of SNAP benefits would require about $114 million per month, according to the Department of Health Services Secretary Kirsten Johnson. Right now, SNAP affects about 700,000 people in Wisconsin. Jim in Appleton on the text line points out, you keep talking about the tragedy of people losing their SNAP benefits, and it is tragic. Let's not forget about all the farmers and distribution centers that rely on the income SNAP provides them. Jim, that is a perfect point. And yes, I should have gotten to that earlier. We have already seen cuts in the programs that helped farmers by providing them with a local market. I mean, not everything has to go to, Kraft or one of the other great big corporate conglomerates. It'd be great if more of Wisconsin's farmers had local Wisconsin markets for their product. And we've created programs that did that. And now the Trump administration is cutting them. There were, as you said, all the distribution centers, the grocery stores. SNAP, for every dollar that is invested in it, returns more than $1 in economic benefits. Because again, as I just can't believe this has to be explained so often. When you give $1 to a billionaire, and not even a billionaire, okay? Let's just say it's somebody who's making $300,000 a year in Wisconsin. There's a pretty good chance that's not getting rolled back into the economy anytime soon. It's being put into savings. It's being spent on, vacations and other things. You give $1 to a struggling family, that dollar is going to be spent in the grocery store or in a local business. And then that local business is going to spend that dollar somewhere else locally, perhaps. And there is this multiplier effect. We have had no shortage of time to explain over and over and over again, trickle-down economics does not work. It is a fairy tale. And yet there are still people who believe, including every Republican member of Congress who voted for the big bloated boondoggle, that if we just give $4 trillion or more in tax breaks to corporations and the very wealthy, that will create prosperity. It ain't going to happen. It's never happened. It's never worked. It never will. It would be far better to not worry about the supply side of economics and work on the demand side and stimulate demand. And by the way, even Donald Trump has talked about that, talking about, these stimulus checks that would go out, as dividends from all of his budget cutting. You notice you haven't heard anything about that lately? Because they buy into the fairy tale of trickle-down economics. Whereas what you really want to do is invest in the middle class. You want to raise up struggling families so that they can become self-sufficient. They don't become self-sufficient by kicking them off their SNAP benefits. All you do then is you make them hungry and desperate and more poor and in need of more help. And we as a country, we can do so much better than that. Some final news and notes from Lake Wissota, including a little ex-legislator show and tell coming up after this. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
You're listening to Civic Media. Find the latest news, information, and archives of all your favorite shows on the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us.
Hey, have you caught the new Raising Wisconsin video series yet? Check out Up North News social media, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and you will see more from Dr. Kelly Snooks, a pediatrician, in her Raising Wisconsin video series. Her next chapter coming up is all about measles and how to spot the signs of measles in kids, the early symptoms to watch for, and when to call your healthcare provider. And honestly, every time we do a story like this, my wife and I would just absolutely just shake our heads and cannot believe that we are living in an age where measles could be making a comeback. And how much longer will it be until we start to see more polio cases in this state? And on we go. So Dr. Kelly Snooks will tell us more about what to look out for in her video series. Check it out on the Up North News social media sites, Up North News WI. Search for that on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Again, 855-75-CIVIC, the phone number for texts or for calls, or you can use the comment section as well. Got somebody in the comment section, asking or claiming that no Republican has ever proposed trickle-down economics. What? Because they didn't say the words trickle down economics? It's exactly what they're proposing. The big bloated boondoggle is trickle down economics on steroids. And it didn't work in the 2017 bill, and it is not going to work in this bill. It is simply a massive transfer of wealth upward. And perhaps enough people have finally touched the stove and gotten burned to realize next year, maybe that's not the direction we should go in. All right, time to play a little show and tell here with Parker, because Mr. Olson's been playing wounded here. He's sick. He's under the weather. I thought I would entertain him here with a few things that I've gathered from the basement.
You're always entertaining, Pat. Don't worry.
I would debate that. But anyway, I had to go looking for something in the basement and realized that there are boxes down there that really need to be opened, looked at, emptied, and thrown away for good.
Yeah.
And that included a box marked more Senate stuff, which is like, this is the leftovers of things from my time in the state Senate.
Okay.
Turns out I was a very award-winning state senator. I don't know if you know this.
Wow. Look at you.
Well, there are plenty of things like the Wisconsin Towns Association hereby recognizes State Senator Pat Kreitlow as a 2010 Friend of the Towns for his outstanding leadership and support in the 2009-2010 legislative session. And it says all that on a very traditional plaque.
Wow, it's very shiny.
Very shiny, very traditional plaque. I've got a few of these that, hung up on the wall at some point. Other places have figured out, we can't just do a plaque. We got to do more than that.
What's better than a plaque?
Here is a clear acrylic shape of Wisconsin with a cob of corn encased in the middle of it.
That's
So
actually beautiful.
a golden ear of corn
Wow.
inside a clear acrylic trophy of the state of Wisconsin from the Wisconsin Corn Growers Association 2008 Leadership Award to Senator Pat Kreitlow. So again, they're like, hey, we don't need a plaque. All right. That's kind of unique.
Okay,
So
yeah.
then, of course, the Wisconsin Builders Association had to go one better. And what is this thing called? A T-square, I think.
I think so.
To right angles on things. So it's a tool. It's basically something I could use in the garage. I've got a T-square already, and it doesn't get used enough. But this one has a little tiny plaque along the ruler. It's like a metal ruler built into a tiny level. And it says 2010 Friend of the Housing Industry, Senator Pat Kreitlow, Wisconsin Builders Association.
Wow.
So I've got all these trinkets that I suppose I could put up, somewhere or put in the bookshelf behind me. But I mean, what's a golden ear of corn and a large protractor basically from 16 years ago? What's that going to get me?
What's that doing for you today? Yeah,
I know
they look good.
I will say there is one that I actually did put to use, and it's a shovel from a groundbreaking.
Yes.
It was from UW Stout, and I do not recall what the building was anymore, but as a member of the State Building Commission, I was out there for the groundbreaking, and it's just your standard, little shovel, the spade type, and it was painted a very bright blue, the shovel and the handle.
Sure.
And then using a wood burner or whatever, etched into the handle was something about, the Stout logo and the groundbreaking and everything else. And for a time, that too was on display. Like, hey, look at this. I got this shovel for, helping make sure that the Stout campus is growing and can be healthy and everything else.
Yeah.
And then my time in the legislature was over. And at one point, I have a shovel exactly that size, and it was older, and it broke, or it got really rusty or something. And I finally looked over at this other one.
I thought, you know what? I'm gonna be feeling kind of cheap today.
What else am I gonna do with this? I mean, this is like in the category news you can use.
There you go.
These are awards that work. And so it's been used ever since. It's still over by the fire pit. And I am still very thankful for the folks at UW Stout for coming up with useful awards. Yeah, and I'm not saying the other. I appreciate all of the other ones. I'm just saying that was kind of genius on their part. So
you always appreciate a trophy with a little utility to it.
Are we talking about? Okay, I thought we were merging into like second marriages here or something. No, not that kind of trophy.
What?
No, sorry. Anyway, listen back. You'll know it's funny when you hear the tape. Anyway, tomorrow on the program, we will be talking to Ingrid Cunninger. She is with the Greater Wisconsin Agency on Aging Resources, and we will be talking all about Medicare Advantage plans, which if you watch John Oliver this past Sunday night on HBO, went off on Medicare Advantage plans. They need to take the word Medicare out of there, because there's nothing Medicare about Medicare Advantage in the ways that they take, money and then basically rip off seniors who paid taxes all their life and thought they'd have the security of Medicare. But they don't when they choose these plans from private insurance companies. So we will talk all about that. Mr. Olson, thank you. Have a wonderful day.
We'll thank you. You too.
Bright and early tomorrow at 6 a.m. We will do the same for all of you as well. Catch what we're doing at upnorthnewswi.com. And again, sign up for those newsletters there. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll see you bright and early, 6 a.m. here up north.
The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.